I want us to start this section by starting off with definitions. For lawyers, we start everything by defining it, and I think that's a unique trait of our business. You cannot move unless you've defined something first, and similarly, this is how we start this. So corporate governance is referred to as a system of rules, practices, and processes by which a company, and once again, colleagues, the word company is used interchangeably with all forms of entities that are covered by the King Code. So it says by which a company is directed and controlled. So that's very important. That's why it's in red. And directed and controlled. And what this effectively means is that it involves the balancing of the interests of a company and its many stakeholders. So who are the stakeholders we are referring to in this environment? A shareholder is a stakeholder. We're talking about management of the company as a stakeholder. We're talking about the employees of the company as a stakeholder, customers, the financial institutions that finance the companies are also stakeholders. The government, by virtue of being the regulator, and of course the community within which we operate as part of our stakeholders. So that's very important. That gives an idea of what the corporate governance essentially aims to achieve, and the King Code in particular. And in a nutshell, that is the definition of what corporate governance is. But if you move on to the key definitions and see what that means, what directed means to control the operations of, manage, or govern. That's the definition of directed. Directed and control, as we said, right? So control means the power to influence or direct the people's behavior or the cause of events within the company. And that's what control means from a governance point of view. Then, of course, a stakeholder refers to any person or organization or social group or society at large that has a stake in the business. So and of course they can either be internal or external stakeholders. I think the internal ones are quite clear. That would be the shareholders, the management, and the employees. Whilst the external ones would mostly be, your suppliers and the community, for example, you operate in. In your case, your incubatees, I don't know if that's what you call them, would certainly be a key stakeholder for you as a business as well. So a stakeholder has a much wider definition. And then, of course, another key important development in terms of governance are the factors that are called ESG factors, economic, social, and governance factors, which are now the be all and end all of all governance compliance within organizations, which means that the company, of course, needs to make a profit. And then within that context, there's issues of governance that the company needs to take care of. But in addition to that, there's an issue of community and environment as well, that the company has to be mindful of. So all of those things play an important role in identifying your stakeholders in the case where they're external. And then, of course, we spoke about, this direction and control must improve the cohesiveness of the company, and cohesive in this instance means the quality of forming a united whole. So you can't have a board that is not cohesive, where one person is pulling in another direction and another person in a different direction. Now, why do we need corporate governance in an institution? And that's a fair question, because depending on who you listen to, someone may think that no, this is not important. It actually inhibits and frustrates the company from moving swiftly and quickly. But it is important to have rules regarding this, colleagues. In fact, in any environment, because if you do not have rules that govern your environment, then it's a free for all, effectively. You are also unable to hold people accountable if there are no rules. And also, you have to deal with personalities rather than principles if there's no rule. So I would rather deal with a principle than a personality. And what that basically means is that if there's a policy or a framework that guides an organization, If there's someone has not, implemented or acted according to that policy, I have a document to refer to say you did not comply with this policy or this rule or this framework as is written here. But if not, it then becomes an argument to say, okay, if you are saying this is a rule, the first question people would actually ask you is, where is the rule written down? And if you don't have that, it gives you problems. So it's always important to have rules, because rules, effectively instill policies. It assists to maintain the cohesiveness of the organization, as I've just referred, because we're all operating from the same page. If there are no rules, for example, there may be perceptions of favoritism or nepotism, whatever the case might be. So rules are important for that purpose, to create that cohesiveness of an organization. Also to hold the company accountable, and of course the actors within the company. But rules also are important in assisting the organization to steer clear of financial, legal, and ethical pitfalls. And you'll see the beautiful, picture we have in the corner there that talks that shows, a moral dilemma, where someone says he's got, every time if he's got an ethical dilemma, and was wondering if there's a medication for that. But that's just to show you that where there's rules, there's actually, a structure and direction within an organization, and then you can deal with people on the basis of fulfilling and complying with